yourcourageouslife.com, and today we're talking about things fear says. So listen in, maybe your fear says these things too. Before I talk about the things that fear says, here's why I'm making this video. Once you start to clue into the things that fear says, you start to realize you're not unique. You're not alone in experiencing fear in this way. And as you start to clue into the fact that fear says the same things or most of the same things to everybody all the time, you start to go, maybe it's not true. Maybe this is just part of the human experience that when people experience fear, fear says all this stuff. And it's not actually true. It's just how fear goes. It's just what fear does. It's just how that internal voice or that sensation that floods my body is going to act. Now, I know some people hear more of a voice when their fear is activated. Some people feel it more somatically. Either way, if you start to tie down what it is that fear is saying, you'll find that you are not so very different than everyone else. So the fear is not telling the truth. This is just how fear operates. So you have a choice next time you're confronted with these voices or these somatic sensations. You can decide, oh, I want to believe what I feel or what I'm thinking, or you can decide, this is just kind of what happens when people are afraid. I don't have to react to it by shutting down, backing down, not going after my dream. All right, common things fear says. I was recently running a call for the Courageous Living Coach Certification, which is the coach training that I run. And by the way, you can learn more about that at teamclcc.com. And people were talking about the different experiences of fear that they had, and they were so universal. It's feelings of stomach churning when you're trying to sit down and do something that's important to you, having trouble concentrating, feeling kind of jittery like you've had too much caffeine. And that's on the somatic side. It's also things like the internal voice in your head that says, you're not enough, you can't do this, what made you think this was a good idea, why bother, it's too much effort, I'm going to get too overwhelmed and it's not going to be worth it at the end, someone else has already done this and probably done it better than me, or thinking about things that people in your life are going to think about what you're doing. So for instance, when you decide to change careers and become a life coach, it's pretty common for people to worry about, what will my partner think? What's my mother-in-law going to think? What are my coworkers at my old job going to think? These are all really normal responses. So you have a choice if you want to live a more courageous life. Do you want to react to those voices by going, well, no point in doing this thing. It's too much. Or do you want to take courage on as a skill set that you can learn? Because that's absolutely what it is. I have met so many people who used to react to their fear every time by shutting down, and they ended up deciding, you know what, this just keeps happening over and over and over. What if I learn some new ways of responding to the fear when it comes up instead of reacting to the fear when it comes up? And that is life-changing. You can learn a lot about the different skills for noticing and then navigating fear differently in many different resources that I have available on my website. First, go over to yourcourageouslife.com/begin. You could also head to Amazon and grab my book, The Courage Habit, in which I actually lay out processes for recognizing when fear is controlling your life, and then the habits that fear forms and hooks you into over and over, and how to shift those habits to create courageous habits. You can also listen to the Your Courageous Life podcast, which is available on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And in that podcast, I try to really take down what are the examples of what it's like to be going through your actual life, and find that fear is getting in the way of your relationships, or fear is getting in the way of going after a big dream, or fear is getting in the way when you're trying to make health changes. So very, very topical with the Your Courageous Life podcast. And debuting in 2021, the Courage Habit podcast. That is also coming out, and I'm super excited about all that that is going to bring. So at the end of the day, there are a lot of resources for how you want to handle your fear. The big thing to start with is actually noticing that the fear is not telling the truth. It is universally experienced by all of us in just about the same way. And you have a choice in terms of how you want to respond when you notice that your fear is activated. I hope that this video has been helpful. For more resources, head on over to yourcourageouslife.com/begin.